Happy Monday. Coming up, the most prophetic, or should I say pathetic, race hustler on television, Joy Reid, got the boot over at MSNBC, and it couldn't have happened to a nicer human being. Speaking of getting the axe, well, federal workers were kindly asked to jot down what the hell it is they've been doing to justify their paychecks because apparently accounting for your time on the taxpayer dime is mean. Plus, Zelenskyy, who is apparently leading his war-torn nation, never seems to run out of time to do interviews and soak up the spotlight. Now he has declared the hundreds of billions he's received from the USA was not a loan, but rather a grant. I'll dig into it all with the Babylon Bee's chief bee, Seth Dillon. And last but not least, Democrats are obsessed with Ds. Not only do they use the D word as their preferred insult, they also desperately want them in women's sports. Weirdos. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on the Tomi Lahren is Fearless YouTube page at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. The show starts now. Want to know how I know DEI is just about dead? Even MSNBC has had it up to here with shameless white people hating loudmouths like Joy Reid. Yes, MSNBC has canceled Joy Reid's not so hit primetime program, The Readout, and boy, I wonder why. She is just such a ray of sunshine.
Got to be honest and keep it real. This is not the pick that I expected that she would make. It did come down to the final three, as we understand it, and I thought she would go astronaut. Keeping it real, he to me would have been the safest, most conventionally safe pick. White, super white, like mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, right? In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general, because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like, Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too. And it has the same effect. Even as the right tries to politicize the idea that masculinity is being robbed from American men by multiculturalism and wokeism, they still want to be able to have their tears.
We on this side of the TV screen have said all we can. We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy. But
oh, we'll miss her. We're learning that in order to retain employment at MSNBC, you can be racist or have low ratings, but you can't be a racist with low ratings. Reid lost half her audience after Trump won the election, and for good reason. Joining me now is someone who knows a thing or two about the media, the Babylon Bee CEO, Seth Dillon. All right, Seth, the news broke yesterday about Joy Reid. I thought it was probably only a matter of time. I don't know if that saves MSNBC. The replacement panel that they've put together is really not much better. But what do you think about this shakeup over at MSNBC? More to come?
Probably more to come. On the one hand, it's good riddance by, she's clearly racist and full of hate herself while she claims to be against racism and hatred. So on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, see you, don't let the door hit you on the way out. On the other hand, people like her provide so much content and fodder for comedy, and it's beyond parody. A lot of the things that she says, she is like a caricature, she is like a parody, and so it's entertaining, and seeing these clips and reacting to these clips is a lot of fun. And so I'm going to kind of miss that. It's just like The View. There's always something outrageous being said on The View with, these other women who just say these outrageous things and responding to it and being entertained by it, as much as it's disconcerting the views that they hold and how they want them to be popular and proliferate the culture. I don't know. I'm entertained by it. So it's bittersweet, mixed feelings for me.
But here's what's odd. I think most people watch these programs and these networks on social media in clips and bites to do precisely what you said, make fun of them. So it doesn't really do the network any good if we have all the clips circulating of Whoopi being an idiot or Joy Reid being an outright racist. I mean, it doesn't really help their networks because people aren't tuning into the network itself. It's much easier to just wait until someone pulls it and puts it on X, and then we make fun of it together. But you know what? Joy Reid can still do her social media videos where she's just outright, flat out racist. It's just interesting to me, though. Like, the amount that MSNBC and other networks are willing to put up with certain individuals just flat out hating white people, and they're just so obvious about it, their hatred for white people, and they make fun of white people, and they call us mayonnaise on Wonder Bread and all this. About Democrats, by the way, she was talking about a white Democrat there when she was talking about the mayonnaise on the Wonder Bread. But I don't know. Like, I feel like the viewing public has had their fill of this. Like, I don't think you can just hate white people outright anymore. Maybe
No, it doesn't work
not
anymore.
right now.
They're in, you can see it everywhere with, I just saw, I think it was in the headlines yesterday, Pepsi is like walking back their DEI stuff. They're just the latest brand to stop doing this, this race-driven, discriminatory, oppressor scheme. The woke stuff is totally in retreat. It's totally in retreat because they realized on the one hand, they don't seem to learn. You still see them go out there saying the same things and holding the same views. On the other hand, the realities of like whether or not they can actually get viewers and be successful as a business, they have to deal with that reality. And so I think they're going to be in retreat on this stuff for a while, or at the very least, if they're not in full retreat, they're going to be rebranding and trying to change how, reposition, change their titles up and kind of shield what they're doing until we root all of that out. So I don't know, but it's good that they're in retreat. It means that the vibe shift is real. The American people have let everyone know, we're not going to tolerate this anymore. We don't want this, other than to make fun of it and mock it, which is still entertaining.
Right, which you guys at the Babylon Bee do the best. Some of these things that these people say, you think were actually Babylon Bee headlines, but they're actually real things that real people are saying. So that's quite interesting. I want to close out our discussion on woke just by talking about the SAG Awards. Another thing that I, of course, didn't watch, but saw clips of circulate on social media. Jane Fonda, of course, she's notoriously done a lot of horrific things during her career, but it was the COVID era when she said COVID was a gift to the Democrats. I mean, at least she said it out loud. She was at the SAG Awards last night, and she said, woke is just giving a damn about other people. And, you got the full quote there. We can't play the clip because of copyright. But she, of course, has so much empathy. She thinks woke is great. So it doesn't seem like Hollywood is retreating from woke at all. I think that they're so insulated in their bubble that they still think that this is popular. But I don't know about you. I'm not going to watch the SAG Awards. I didn't watch the Golden Globes. I'm not going to watch the Oscars. I think Hollywood award shows have largely lost their luster. And I think that in maybe 5 years' time, we won't even have them anymore. What are your thoughts?
Well, they've lost their political influence too. There was actually, I was just watching before I came on your show, a clip that someone had shared of Joy Reid and some other commentators commenting on, Kamala's loss in the election and how she ran this flawless campaign. And she had all these celebrities behind her. She had the Swifties, and she had, just one Hollywood celebrity or singer-songwriter after another. She was like railing off all these names of all the people that Kamala Harris had in her corner. And from her perspective, that meant that she should have won. But I think what needs to be realized is that nobody really cares that much what these celebrities say about which politician you should vote for. They care about what actually matters to them in their lives. They care about the nation's interests and their own family and, how affordable the groceries are and practical things like that. So it's just an out of touch, like you said, in a bubble thing where they can care about this stuff and have this opinion on wokeness as being this really good thing, and they don't understand why everyone's rejecting it. I think, Elon Musk has been on recognizing how dangerous and divisive and toxic wokeness is for years, and he's played a huge role in bringing that into the public view and allowing and helping people to see how damaging it is. He told us, he described wokeness like this when I asked him like why he thought it was so damaging. He said it's divisive, exclusionary, and hateful. It basically gives mean people an excuse to be cruel while armored in false virtue. How different is that from Hollywood's perspective?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of white guilt that goes on in Hollywood, and again, just being completely shielded from reality until there's a wildfire, and then they all get mad at the mayor, but then they probably are going to vote for someone that's just like her, and I doubt they'll recall her, and then she got rid of the fire chief, so that's great. I do want to go on to Elon Musk, though, and I want to get your honest take on a lot of this stuff. So over the weekend, I think a clip surfaced, whether he did this over the weekend or last week, of James Carville saying that there's a couple of weeks before MAGA completely implodes. Now, I don't believe that. I don't believe that Trump voters are regretting their vote as much as these little town halls, these grassroots town halls across the nation springing up, these folks that voted for Trump that are so regretful, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe really any of that. But I'm wondering if you think President Trump and Elon Musk are doing too much too fast. Do you think that the whiplash is going to be advantageous, Or do you think maybe they should slow down just a little bit as a strategy to make sure that the American people are, understanding and on board with all the actions they're taking?
Well, I'd be interested. So I'm out of the loop on that. The town halls where people are expressing regret. I feel like I'm waking up every morning. All these executive orders and all these things is like Christmas every day.
Yeah, for me too.
What are the complaints? What are they saying he's done that they regret voting for him?
Well, some of the things are just the cutting back of the federal workers and certain programs. And there have been Republican senators, by the way, that are like, you cut this from my state. My state gets kickbacks for this or for that. So there has been, some remorse, mostly people on social media. And I don't really buy it anyway. I don't even think that they're actual Trump voters, but they're really trying hard to stir this up. But this goes to a post that I think is fantastic. I don't see the outcry for this either. They say that there is some, but the federal workers getting the email from Elon and Doge saying, hey, listen, tell us what you did last week. And please respond and telling us what you did. And people are like, oh my God, we shouldn't have to justify our existence. I think it's brilliant. What's your take on this email?
I think it's brilliant too. And anybody who objects to someone in a position of authority telling them, I want to know more about what you did, and I want to, there's some accountability here, and I want you to justify, something. What did you spend your time on? If you have any opposition to that whatsoever, you should be fired. Like, it's not even a matter of like, if you don't respond to the email, like if you think that email is a problem, then what are you doing? Like you're working in a job. This is not like something where you're just handed money for no reason. You have a job to do and you should be doing your job. And it's the bare minimum to be able to say, I actually accomplished a few things last week. Here's what they are. And it takes like 5 minutes to say that. The backlash to something like that, where people are saying, this email shouldn't be going out or whatever. I think it's brilliant. You're actually, for the first time, treating government employees as if they are actually employees who have a job to do. It's the first time I've ever seen that happen. And so I think it's amazing. I think it's great. I think there's going to be opposition to that as far as like whether or not they're doing, to go back to the other question, whether or not they're doing too much too fast. I was really hoping that Trump would come out the gate like absolutely ruthless and going hard and swinging and firing off executive orders and pardoning people and just like taking it to them because of the attempts not only to, throw him in jail and vilify him and smear him and kill him even. I figured he's got to be fired up. He's got to come out swinging. The American people wanted that. That's why they voted for him. I can't see it being a bad thing that he's actually the leader that everyone really wanted him to be in this moment. So I don't think that hurts him ultimately politically. And if what you're doing in terms of going too far is minimizing red tape and cutting back regulation and cutting costs so that we can actually get to a place where, America's in a healthier economic position, and our government is more limited in its size and scope, I just don't see how you can have like massive backlash to that would be politically damaging. It's a objectively good outcome.
Yeah, and again, if they end up cutting all of this waste and we end up with a more balanced budget out of all of this, and Congress actually does their job, I think that spells disaster for Democrats who are not only making their money off of it, but need to run on something, and the protests and all this, it's not panning out. I want to play a clip from Bernie Sanders. He's apparently still out there with his grift, and he's once again begging for money, and this feels like an old meme, but he's doing it again. He wants to do like a cross-country tour. Let's listen to Bernie with his PSA here.
I am once again asking for your financial support. I don't have to tell anybody that we're living in dangerous and unprecedented times. We are fighting now against the oligarchs, Elon Musk and the others, who are essentially running the government, the richest people in the world. We're taking on Trump's movement toward authoritarianism, putting more and more power into his own hands, undermining the Congress, challenging the courts, not knowing what the Constitution is about. We are right now engaged in a major struggle to make sure that the Congress does not pass legislation which gives massive tax breaks to billionaires and then cuts Medicaid, education, and programs that working families desperately need. I am going to be running around this country along with others to rally the American people, to continue the fight for justice, to stand up to Trump and the authoritarianism that we are seeing. To be successful, we're going to need your help. So please, if you can send $27 or anything that you could afford, we'd much appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You know, Seth, I think he's worth quite a bit of money. He could probably foot his own bill to travel around the country. His campaign would probably also be able to pay for that. But he's asking average Americans out there to donate to his tour to complain about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. That's pretty rich coming from him, I think.
Yeah, what does it even look like? Is he going to be, he's going to be like holding events where he speaks like little, like, I guess, local things in various towns. He's going to go whine and complain, and he wants us to pay for he has money on his own. Sure. There's a lot of people that he could go to for money as well. For some reason, they always talk about like it's the conservatives or the Republicans who are the billionaires, the rich people, you know, that they resent so much, and they have way too much money and they shouldn't have this money. They're backed by billionaires. Like Clinton and Kamala got way more billionaire backing than Trump did over the last couple of election. Well, Biden did too. So the idea that he's not going to his billionaire buddies and saying, hey, will you fund this effort? He's asking Americans to chip in $27. Like, that's not even a small amount really either. It's not like chip in $5. $27, really? I don't know. I don't know where he's coming from on that, and I don't even know why he's doing this. The idea that he's fighting authoritarianism, and this is the answer to authoritarianism. How is this going to solve that problem if that is really what he is saying is the issue anyway? It doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds like a grift, a total grift.
That's what he's best at, and others who also just like to be in the headlines. I want to turn now to some foreign policy stuff. Another thing that I don't think average Americans are too upset about. I think the people that are upset about this are pretty much Zelenskyy, those who benefit from the military-industrial complex, and then the Democrats who just hate Donald Trump. But all this with the Zelenskyy, and oh my gosh, President Trump tweeted that Zelenskyy was a dictator. Well, he doesn't have elections, so I mean, one could rightfully assume that would be a little dictator-ish. But again, this whole thing of like, oh, the deal wasn't that we would get something out of it. When you have United States representatives tweeting out, we don't need to get anything back for the billions that we sent to Ukraine. It was a gift. It's like, I mean, even if that's where you stand on it, I think it's a weird thing to tweet out and think that you're going to get support. I don't know about you, Seth, but I have never met one single American at this point, especially, who is like, you know what really keeps me up at night? Ukraine. It's just not there. You might want Ukraine to win the war, but I just don't think that the average American really, quite frankly, gives a hoot. And I'm wondering if you see something different.
Yeah, and no one's convinced me that giving just a blank check policy where we just give them more and more money is going to change the outcome of the war either. And so, you know, it's like, where's the return on that investment? What are the actual clear objectives and outcomes that we're targeting with our support? None of that's made clear to the American people. I think the American people are really energized right now about an America First agenda that prioritizes our own national interests and isn't just, you know, throwing money away where it's there's no accountability. There's no weren't you just saying we need to audit every penny?
Yeah.
When is that going to happen? Probably never. We'll never know where that money went. Most of it anyway. So it's very frustrating. I don't think the American people are certainly not losing sleep over this issue. They may for virtue points get really fired up about it, but other than that, the likes and virtue points on the internet, I don't think it's an issue that the American people care about to the extent they're making it out.
I think that the appetite for this expired about 2 years ago. I think right initially there were people that had the Ukraine flag. Now when I see somebody with a Ukraine flag that's not from Ukraine, I immediately just think, okay, well, you might as well put the pronouns in your bio or be like little Adam Kinzinger, who's got it in his Twitter handle, like Slava Ukraine, whatever that is. It's so embarrassing to me. Like, I can't imagine being an American and putting that in your bio and then also not having any consideration for where this money is actually going. Ukraine is a corrupt country. I think people look at Ukraine like it's not a corrupt country. You might want them to win the war, but it's still a corrupt country. And I thought this was great too. Caitlin Collins, friends. She's posting like, Zelenskyy said that he would give up the presidency if Ukraine could join NATO. Like, how selfless of him. And I'm thinking, yeah, he doesn't want to be president anymore because he wants to just go take his money and run. And he wants to have this legacy and then go spend our money. And like, this is supposed to be some virtuous thing. I don't know. What's your take?
Well, at best, I mean, what it does accomplish is it takes a little bit of the edge away from the argument that he wants to be a dictator if he's willing to step away. That it's harder to make that argument. And you also still have the argument that it's an ongoing war. And so, of course, there aren't going to be elections, which is kind of a common thing to have in a situation like that, where you have a military conflict ongoing in your own nation. So it may help from that perspective, but I don't think it changes the ultimate calculus of whether or not, to what extent America should be concerned about this, and to what extent should we have a blank check policy where we just fund something without an end. All we're ultimately doing is prolonging the conflict. To some, it could be argued that. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting the way this all shakes out. If Donald Trump does broker a deal here, obviously Democrats are never going to be happy with it. But if he does, and then we rebuild Ukraine in a way that's advantageous to the United States of America, having an economic interest in that country that's beneficial to both nations, I think that's the best possible case and solution here. Just bringing Ukraine into NATO, like, no, we need to actually be getting something for all the money that we're sending over there. And I think that that's what most Americans would agree with, whether on the left or the right, unless they're personally benefiting from the blank check going to Ukraine. Last thing I want to talk to you about before we go, CPAC, Tom Homan made a statement about Massachusetts, like, hey, I'm bringing hell with me. Like, if you want to stand in my way of getting rid of these criminal aliens, these rapists, and we know there are so many, especially in the Boston area. If you want to do this, I'm going to bring hell with me. And now their leaders are tweeting back like, oh, there'll be hell when you get here. Help me understand the political calculus of Democrat leaders saying, we are going to make sure you don't get the criminal aliens. Again, I don't understand. That's the hill you want to die on. A little weird.
Well, I think it's right in line with what we were talking about before about wokeness and kind of this empathy that some describe as either toxic empathy or suicidal empathy. It's the idea that even the worst in society, like somehow we're benefited by treating the worst possible individuals, including severe criminals, with this kind of empathy that elevates them in importance and priority over law-abiding citizens. It is a twisted moral inversion, and I think it's just it's a worldview problem. It's not. I don't think that there's really necessarily a political calculus there where they're saying whether or not this will help us politically. They've bought into a worldview where this is the right thing to do. And it's a complete flip of what's actually morally right.
Do you really think so, though, Seth? Because you give Democrats a lot of credit that they're well-meaning morons. I don't give them that much credit. I don't think they're well-meaning. I think that they're actually pretty brilliant in their strategies usually. Now, this last election maybe be a caveat to that. But I don't. I think that there is a motivation here. And prior to the election, I think the motivation was pretty clear. Yeah. Give amnesty, give voting rights. Now I think it's okay. Some of these, NGOs are making a lot of money off of the migrant crisis. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their migrant centers. They don't want to lose these high-paid positions. They don't want to lose census numbers because the illegal aliens count in the census. They want it for districting purposes. I think it's all of that plus the cheap labor. I really don't buy that there are that many elected Democrats anyway that are just like, you know what? We care about people. I just don't buy that.
No, I would agree with you on that. If you distinguish elected Democrats from just the general population where people have bought into the worldview, I totally agree. I'm extremely cynical when it comes to people's motives when they're in those positions and how they use these narratives and the promotion of this toxic, morally inverted worldview to manipulate people into doing what they want them to do and to getting the outcomes that they want. So no, I agree with you on that. We're not in disagreement there. It's a mix between bad motives and just bad ideology, and whether people hold ideology sincerely or not. I can't read people's hearts, but when it comes to politicians, I'm extremely skeptical of whether or not their motives are good there.
Yeah. This is the last thing I want to ask you about. I'm getting ready to talk about it at length in my final thoughts, but I just want to get your quick thought. Democrats, the word of the month seems to be the word, and I'm going to quote it. This isn't just me. This is them saying it over and over again. Dicks. They keep saying it. They call Elon Musk a dick. Garcia out there showing pictures of Elon Musk saying he's a dick, repeating it on CNN that he's a dick, hosts on CNN saying he's a dick. We've got senators tweeting out dick, 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 dick. It's weird to me. Like,
is this a thing? I didn't know this was a thing.
Oh, yeah. This is their preferred word. It was weird during the election season, and now they just keep using the word, and that's how they like to describe Elon Musk, but they're all doing it. And when I say all, I mean the accounts that are, prevalent. They use the word to describe Elon and others, and I just don't know why they're so obsessed with that word. And maybe as the CEO of the Babylon Bee, you can help me out with that one, because it's weird to me.
Oh, it is weird to me too. There's something psychological at play there. Probably has to do with something with the patriarchy and toxic masculinity or something that they're trying to tap into in people's minds. I don't know. I have to go and look and see where that's actually happening, because I hadn't noticed that trend before. But it's funny that they've kind of all picked up on that and chimed in unison. But this is something that Democrats tend to do. They all act like these non-player characters that are like regurgitating talking points, and once they get one, they latch onto it, and they all sound like machines instead of people not thinking for themselves. And it may be that a little bit too, but I don't know. It's funny that that's the word that they focused on.
Yeah, I think that they think it makes them edgy or cool. And when they're standing there with their, out doing their little press conferences and they look anemic and sick and they throw around the word, they feel like it makes them tough or something. They like to throw on the F word as well. Now, listen, I love a good swear word. Don't get me wrong. But if I were an elected official, I wouldn't be going in front of people saying swear words to sound cool, because I would think that was classless and tasteless. But then again, Democrats are really struggling to find their place now. So maybe it's the D word. I don't know. Democrats, Ds, enjoy it while they can, I suppose. Seth, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you so much for all the content over at the Babylon Bee. We love it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, folks, as I was just saying, Democrats are seemingly obsessed with, I quote, dicks. They love the word, and they also want them in women's sports. Well, I have some final thoughts. So it's a disturbing trend on the left for sure, the obsession with dicks. I don't know if these Democrat nerds just feel more powerful when they throw the word around or what, but the fetish is a lot.
But do you think that calling Elon Musk a dick is effective messaging for confronting what is a potentially irreversible transformation of the U.S. government?
Well, he is a dick. The American public in an enormous way. And what I think is really important, and what the American public want, is for us to bring actual weapons to this bar fight.
Some of the details that have come out, like the $59 million spent on luxury hotels, it's actually not.
Talking about the FEMA money that was abused for migrants. FEMA money for migrants. That's okay now.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. Don't put words in my mouth.
So would you stop that? Would you stop that process?
Don't be a
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have to. I don't swear in public very well, but we have Trump.
These people are crude and rude and gross, quite frankly, but leave it to the senator from Tampon Tim's, Minnesota to continue the trend with this eloquent tweet. Remember back during Kamala's failed campaign when all the Democrats in cult-like unison called Trump and Vance weird? Well, now it appears their new buzzword of choice is dick. So classy, right? But the obsession goes far beyond insults and word choice. Democrats are still fighting to have them in women's sports and locker rooms as well.
I understand Maine. Is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal
Well,
laws.
we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it, because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply, because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. and enjoy your life after governor, because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
You know, these people really can't take a hint, can they? I thought this issue was as good as settled, but no. Some radical blue states are still willing to die on the hill of men and women's sports. I'm so glad President Trump is holding his ground on the issue, the most feminist president of my lifetime for sure. But what I cannot understand is why these radical leftists who are supposedly feminists want men to rob women of opportunities in private spaces. But in the battle between President Donald Trump and that governor of Maine, Mills, over there, I think I'm going to put my money on President Trump. Democrats, you're weird and you need help. Also, a bar of soap for your dirty potty mouths. Clean it up. And those are my final thoughts. Please be sure to tune in live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern as always, and catch full episodes of this show on Fox Nation whenever you like. Also, please like and subscribe and comment on the YouTube channel at Tomi Lahren is Fearless. From Nashville, God bless and take care. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want more of my hottest takes, must-see conversations, and of course, my final thoughts, click here and make sure you subscribe here so you never miss a beat. I'll be here every weekday, and I hope you'll join me.